Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our work session. Today's date is March 13th, 2024. This is a follow-up meeting to our other prior work session regarding the twofold consideration. One of employing and installing a geothermal unit in the new City Hall as a means of heating and cooling that particular building based on environmental considerations and cost considerations, etc. And secondly, we have a special meeting scheduled to follow this item for the work session, which we will consider. You saw the agenda, and we'll introduce that at the appropriate time. But we do have Danforth present, as well as our engineers on the project from CPL and they are by Zoom to help give us information and shed some light as to the consideration of the geothermal units. And then the council needs to consider whether or not to bring Danforth on this project to handle that particular aspect of the reconstruction of the new City Hall. To that end, Mr. DeSantis, do you have anyone you wish to start with?
Yeah, you have questions about this system being used in another building, or CPL can answer that question. Jason's online. I don't know who is with Jason. Jason, you want to introduce yourself and who you're with?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Havens. I am one of the engineers with Clark Patterson Lee and CPL. And with me today is Rich Morelli, who is one of our experts in the energy side of things. He's been working on the geothermal design for the project, and I wanted to make sure that any questions or concerns that you might have related to that topic, he'd be able to, at the very minimum, address as best as possible. And then if we had follow-ups, we could certainly do that. He is far better suited to answer those questions than I am. So he's joined me today.
Thank you. Wouldn't it be easier if they just gave us some background on the project, and then if we have questions, we can ask them? I know we've gotten, Tony, the information that was emailed regarding geothermal heat pumps. I didn't have a chance to look at it, and unfortunately, I forgot to tell Grace at the city clerk's office to make copies. She did, but everybody got these at the last minute, I would assume. So we haven't had a chance to review that, unfortunately. So it might be easier if CPL just gives us some background as to pros and cons of going this route.
Yeah. So Rich, you want to start and just give as much information as you can?
Yeah, sure.
Working on it, and if they have any questions, they could ask you questions after you're.
Yeah. So anytime we're looking at a HVAC design of any buildings or any commercial healthcare, K-12, whatever it is, we're looking first of all at the complexities of the new design. Since this is basically considered new construction, it's a total gut on the existing portions of it, and then you got the addition. So it's, we consider it to be new construction. We know we're going to have different temperature zones for offices. It's basically an office building. So we look at that, and the first thing we try to decide is what type of air distribution system we're going to have. For this one, we felt we needed a variable air volume air distribution system. So that takes care of the interior zone control. It's VAV boxes. There's, I think we had up to 20 something, I think it was in the 20 range of different temperature zones for different office configurations. Once we get that completed, then it's a question of where's the energy going to come from to to heat the building, and where are we going to dump the energy when we're going to cool it. So, you know, it's in the wintertime, you're taking heat from somewhere to bring it into the building. And in the summertime, you're taking the heat in the building and you've got to get rid of it. So the heat sink and the heat source complexities of that, typically we're getting rid of it into the air. So if you've got a standard air source heat pump system, rooftop heat pumps, you're just distributing that air into that heat back into the air in the summer. You're getting heat out of the air in the wintertime and bringing it into the building. You could also do it with boilers, where we would be using gas to bring that energy into the building for heat. Heat pumps are more efficient. We were trying to be as green as possible, trying to stay electric as the trend these days, especially in New York State, is to go as much electric as possible and not use fossil fuels. So that was a consideration as well. Then we get into the cost, and we have to look at, you know, we don't always want to put in the most expensive system, of course. We want to make it so it's going to be affordable. Because of the tax incentives that are going on right now, we felt that heat sink and heat source would be best if we went with a geothermal system. We had the existing parking lot. We knew that we were going to have to redo that parking lot anyway, so we're already doing grading out there. So it makes it pretty easy to say, okay, let's put a well field out there. That's going to be our source of heat, and that's going to be our sink source for getting rid of the heat in the summertime. The cost implication of that, everything that's inside the building would be the same, whether it would be air cooled or geothermal heat cooled. So everything inside the building is basically, and I think the original estimates on the DD level and CD level were somewhere in the range of $80 to $90 a square foot for the HVAC, and then an additional $40-$45 a square foot for the geothermal portion of it. So that's just for the well. So if we had, you know, we could have a water source heat pump system where we would have a cooling tower and a boiler. The boiler would be adding heat. The cooling tower would be getting rid of the heat. Instead of that, we're basically putting the heat into the ground and taking heat out of the ground. So it's basically the same system, except where we're sinking in, getting rid of that heat and getting the heat out of the ground. That cost, basically with the tax incentives from the investment, the Infrastructure Investment Act of 2022, fall of 2022, that is getting us about a 40% tax incentive. And because obviously the city is a non-tax entity, it would be an actual direct check from the federal government to cover 40% of the geothermal portion of it. Now, the way that the act is written, it's actually 30% and it's additional 10% if you use domestic product. So let me clarify that. And we would be specifying all domestic products, so we would get the extra 10%. The way that, because you're a non-taxed entity, you would get that as a direct. So as soon as the project is done, you would apply for that and then get the money from that tax act. And that includes anything that is connected to the geothermal system. So that would mean the well field, all the piping going into the building, the piping that is connected to it, the heat pumps that are inside that are connected to that system, the ductwork that is connected to that system, and the ductwork and diffusers all the way out to the space. So basically every part of the system would qualify for that. So your full labor and material investment into the HVAC system would qualify under that tax act. So that's why we made that decision to come to this point. So I guess that's kind of the quick description of what we did and how we came to that decision. And to be honest, until that tax act went into effect, we weren't doing a whole lot of geothermal because of that added extra cost.
What would be the life expectancy of this system?
So the life expectancy typically is around 20 to 25 years of the internal components. The well field has a life expectancy of about 50 years.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
uh, what about repairs? What's been your experience, your company's experience repairs that may be needed?
Yeah, so the data that we've seen shows that it's actually the life cycle cost of geothermal systems is actually better than most systems. The heat pumps are just kind of an off-the-shelf kind of item. Parts are readily available. You don't have your boiler controls. You don't have your burner complexities that you would have in a boiler. The AC part is standard. I mean, there's nothing different about there's nothing. There are no working parts outside of the building. So you're basically sending water down. It's actually glycol down into the ground. If it's warmer than the ground, it distributes the heat into the ground, and if it's cooler than the ground, it takes heat out of the ground. Then it comes back into the building. So you got pumps and you got heat pumps inside, all very serviceable by basically any service company. Would have the capability to do that. We found that the operating costs of the actual maintenance costs are lower than most types of systems. For geothermal, and the operating costs are typically run about the published data. It shows about 25 to 50% lower than other types of systems. The 50% is a very high number, and that would be based against a very minimal efficiency rooftop type system that you might see like in a mall, something like that. Against like a variable flow refrigerant system, you're going to get about a 25% reduction in operating cost. So if you got the most efficient heat pump system, geothermal is about 25% more efficient than that. And that's based on the fact that an air-cooled heat pump system, you have the variability of the outdoor temperatures always changing. So your heat pumps are not as efficient in the summertime when it's 90 degrees as they would be in the summertime when it's 70. And the same thing in the wintertime, a heat pump is not as efficient when it's 0 outside. It could operate and you're still going to get heat out of that 0-degree air, but it's not going to be as efficient as it would be when it was 40 or 50 degrees outside. And the nice thing about the well field is that temperature is constant year round. So you're always working your heat pumps at maximum efficiency. So that's why you get that additional 20%, 25% operating cost. Does that answer your question?
It does. And Rick, let me just ask you this. You talked about and maybe you answered this question. You talked about the incentives on the federal government level. Are there state incentives also?
We're going to have to look into that. I don't know. There may be NYSERDA incentives that you could couple on top of that. Heat pumps right now, I think we're going to have to check it, and I can't answer the question definitively. There are typically NYSERDA has elective type rebates, like for a three ton heat pump, they might give so many dollars for that. So that's kind of the prescriptive type of rebates. We will certainly look into that. And I apologize, I don't have the answer for that right now.
Thank you, Rick. Any council members have any questions?
So answer.
Would there be any incentives for like weatherization? Like would this fall under that type of umbrella? Being a bit proactive and weatherizing the building and things like that? Like, is there any way you can finagle other types of funding to help cut costs?
I don't know, Jason, do you know if architecturally you've looked at anything like that? You mean like for the envelope, windows and that kind of stuff?
Whatever you got.
Yeah.
Nothing that we're aware of. This is its own kind of animal as far as what it is. What you're talking about from an envelope perspective is typically related to your R values, your insulation factors, and your energy efficiency and the meaning of new energy codes in an old structure. Um, so that would have applied primarily to doors, windows, insulation conditions, things of that nature. And I know that our team had done a comprehensive review of all that as part of their design and their selection of their materials.
Thank you. I don't know if there are any other questions that the council has. Jason, anything that you think might be pertinent in adding at this point for our consideration in all this?
Just a very kind of forward, we're at the finish line.
Yeah.
So now is kind of the critical point of no return. If there's any conditions that you guys would like to see differently, and now is absolutely the last little bit of opportunity that we have to make those changes. Being that the bidding date is so close, we'd need that information as soon as humanly possible. But I feel very, very comfortable that our team's done a really comprehensive job getting every detail of the concerns and questions and considerations that not only the council but the mayor and others from all of the individual groups within the city hall and how they operate together considered and implemented into this new building, and we're very much looking forward to getting that up for you guys.
And I would think, Jason and Rich, that given the fact you got to drop a well first, that this needs to be done preliminarily as far as the reconstruction is concerned. In the order of the remodeling or reconstruction, is that accurate?
Not necessarily. Rich, you can jump in here, but from our perspective on the site side of things, obviously that would go in first on the site before we put in any parking lot. But that said, we're not going to be doing the parking lot until we get closer to the mid to the end point of the building itself, because we don't want any of the other activities in construction to disturb the site itself. So, but Rich, if there's any other input you have there, I mean, obviously it's got to happen as part of the mechanicals for sure. So
Yeah, no, we've done geothermal systems in the past. There is no special consideration for timing as far as when the wells are done. It's usually done and coordinated along with the construction, the site work. The well digger will come in and they'll just dig their wells. They'll lay their pipe. They'll get all that stuff done. They'll get their couple, however many feet of covering over the top of that, get the pipe basically stubbed into the building, and then as the building's going, the construction it just flows along with it. So this isn't it's not really anything new that hasn't been done. It's just recently, because of the tax act, there's just a lot more geothermal systems being installed. I mean, it's we're putting them in right now at Alfred University. We've got a system design that's going out to bid shortly. We're doing some K-12 projects, and I honestly hadn't done a geothermal system in a K-12, Lions High School. We're putting one in. We've done some at like Geneseo has one of their dining halls was geothermal. We did that one in the past, but they were kind of hit and miss as far as certain entities just wanted to go that direction. So that's where we went. But with the tax incentive, it's just become a big gain for the geothermal industry right now.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's any other questions, Tony, you have something called to our attention?
I just want to bring it to your attention that the timeline of the project. Now, there's a company there that's already testing the water for the wells. So if the results of this meeting go as I hope, we should be possibly 3 to 4 weeks ahead of schedule. So,
Yeah, and we're testing. So you're talking about the test that's being done right now, Tony?
yes,
Yeah. So that's actually a thermal test. So what they'll do is they're digging a well. They'll put their pipes down into the well, and then they'll run water through that and record their temperature differences for like a week, and then they give us a report, and that'll give us the specific thermal conductivity of the well right on your site. Up until now, we've gone with thermal conductivity in the area, which it doesn't really change. It's all rock. I mean, it's really not rocket science at all. But that will give us specifically for your site. So instead of 20 wells, we'll find out maybe we only need 19 or we need 21, that type of thing. We usually build in a couple extra wells just, to be safe. But once we have this data, we'll really be able to make that a finite decision. So that's what that test is going to give us, the actual BTUs per linear foot per delta T of your actual site. And once that's done, that test well actually will become part of your well field. So it's not like what we're doing there is not going to be used. That'll actually become part of the well field.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Tony? Unless there's anything else, are there Representative Mike Hain going to talk to us about?
No, I asked them to come just in case you guys have any more questions on their part, unless they have something they want to add.
Mike, anything?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything really to add. I just wanted to be here as a resource if you folks have any questions as a follow-up from our presentation. After you heard about the project from CP.
Okay, Mike, we appreciate your being here. Unless we need, Tony, or any of the council members, we need CPL here, Rich or Jason, and we thank you for your participation, your time, and the expertise involved in this, and the clarification, so thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just, one thing?
One more, yeah.
Jason, so if, like I said, if this meeting goes the way we hope, you'll be in contact with Danforth and working on a contract before anything is done, correct?
Yes, and we will be obviously working with them directly, essentially, theoretically, possibly tomorrow, right? As soon as we get the okay to do so from council, if that is what you so choose to do, we will begin to work with them immediately.
And also, once the contract is finalized between CPL and Danforth, I want Mr. Gahn to go over it, and then we're gonna present it to the council for them to pass.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to get that information out there.
Okay, all right, good point, thank you. All right, Rich and Jason, thank you as always.
Thank you,
Oh, you're
guys.
very welcome. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Any questions of Danforth? Anything, Mike, you want to add?
No, just again, if you had any questions from our presentation last week or how we would work with the project, we just want to be here to make sure you guys could wrap it all up at once.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe the other council members did the same, but I did talk to Director Kuig, Mark Kuig at the Housing Authority. You guys your firm did some work for them there on various items, and they were apparently more than pleased. He spoke very highly of what you did there and how you did it and the professionalism involved, so that bodes well, so good to hear. All right, if there isn't anything else, then we'll call this meeting, the special meeting, to order and proceed, depending on what the council wants to do.
Council President, the agenda item for 1 that we just discussed, does the language have to change in order for us to approve the geothermal aspect of it, or as is suffices both hiring of Danforth as well as accepting the geothermal feature?
Since this is just the general approval of the firm, I don't think we have to make a determination as a council to go with the geothermal project until we've had a chance to review the proposed contract and the numbers and estimates submitted through Danforth, then I think that would be part of the legislation.
Okay, is that what the understanding was with you, Tony,
Yes,
as well?
understand, yes.
Okay.
Geothermal is gonna be the way to go. You know, the numbers are gonna be right up par what we're gonna look for, and with the tax credits and all the savings there.
Right,
It's the way it's gonna go.
I just needed clarity on
Yeah.
what we're voting.
Geothermal was the system that we started out with, so that's what we're going for. But I'm asking that the council approve Danforth as the contractor on the new city hall site for heating and plumbing
Okay,
and air conditioning.
And this is, the procedure we're using is an accepted procedure by New York State, versus having to go out to bid. We're actually selecting off of the New York State approved contractors list. And in fact, if I recall correctly, that helps keep the numbers, costs within certain parameters.
Right.
Which, and it saves time and effort, like you said, we may be 3 to 4 weeks ahead of schedule, so that might be helpful too. It's something for the council to consider. And unless there's anything else, I will formally call to order the special meeting for the Lackawanna City Council, March 13th, 2024, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you take the roll, please?
LeBlancy,
Present.
Anderson.
Here.
Moretti,
Here.
Surbeck is excused.
Morano,
Here.
Law Department,
Here.
Public Works.
Here.
Comptroller is excused.
I don't know if the controller's gonna be here or not.
Okay. Communication from department heads. Deputy Commissioner of Capital Projects requests the City Council approve Danforth as the contractors for the plumbing and heating for the new City Hall.
Moreno moves to approve request.
Anderson second.
Motion by Morano, second by Anderson to approve request. LeBlancy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Moretti,
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0. City Comptroller resubmits her request of March 4th, 2024 from the council meeting on March 8th, 2024 for this special meeting on March 13th, 2024. Her original request, City Council approve an additional 182 hours at an additional cost of $17,290 for Sapphire Business Systems to complete the reconciliation process for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, which is 32 hours, and the 2023-2024 fiscal year of 150 hours.
Moreno moves to table the request.
Anderson second.
Motion by Morano, second by Anderson to table request. LeBlancy,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Morano, Moretti,
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Motion by Morano, second by Anderson to table the request, carried 3-1.
Okay, Moreno moves to adjourn.
LeBlancy seconds.
Motion by Morano, second by LeBlancy to adjourn meeting. LeBlancy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Moretti,
Yes.
Morano.
Yes.
Carried 4-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.